What's going on, everybody? Back again, Muscle Media Network. Dom Cardone joins us. This is a new installment, something we're trialing out. The name is still to be determined, but I guess I'm your host, Tommy Styles. We got Dom Cardone, IFBB Pro, IFBB MPC coach, Mr. MMA. Today we're talking mindset, and that's kind of the idea of this segment. So, Dom, you posted something up on your Instagram that gave me an idea of how we could start this first episode. Well, I'm going to read it back to you, and I want you to tell me what that means to you and how that applies to what you do with your mindset. My ambitions are far above bone and blood. These ambitions, desires are not quiet murmurs in my heart, but savage beatings of a war drum that never rests. And I do not want it to rest. What's that mean to you?
So that could mean many things. And a lot of people look at it. I'm sure you looked at it pretty much from I could probably assume you looked at it from the similar standpoint I did. You know, today in life, especially in today's society, people are so set on doing the bare minimum. There's no high achievers. There's very minimal high achievers. People don't really set out on the true ambitions. And then there are those that who think they are ambitious and they set these goals and they're doing the bare minimum, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. Either it comes to coaching, bodybuilding, or MMA. Anything I've ever done in my life, since I was a kid, I always believed that I was, taught that you're much more than what it seems. When we talk about bone and flesh, we're talking about human. We're all human, and everybody's expectations and goals and ambitions they set for themselves, for the most part, are very just minimal, and they go through life without a fire for anything, and without having a burning fire and a passion for something. I think people start to die. And when I had to leave bodybuilding behind, I needed something else. I always needed that thing to keep me ticking. And we can all talk about, yeah, sure, we have our families and we have our work and whatever, but again, that's it's amazing, things to have fuel you, but we all need that something that's way beyond just being human. And for me, that is my coaching, that is MMA, that is the high goals and expectations I set for myself every day, because I've been in situations and been in times in my life where I didn't have those things set for myself, and I felt lost, and I was absolutely a lost person, and I was not mentally all there. And it's just, we need to find that thing that keeps us going way far and way that people don't realize that we all have some sort of fire in us. What is going to bring out that fire and passion in us? It's up to us to find out. And once you feel that feeling, you don't want it to end. It's a high, it's a purpose, and that's another great topic that ties into that, is finding your purpose that keeps that fire burning. And whatever it is for me, it's my coaching goals. It's now my MMA goals. It's brought me back to that feeling of young Dom, being that hungry bodybuilder who I wasn't competing to just, I had goals to turn pro and all that good stuff. But when I was training, when I was eating, when I was doing cardio, when I was out of the gym, that fire was always inside of me. I couldn't stop fucking thinking about it. It was, I needed to achieve everything that I had burning inside me. Like I said, went way far above and beyond saying I have a pro card, I'm going to the Olympia, I won a show. It was that purpose that was driving me, and I never wanted it to end. And there were times in my life where I allowed it to die out, and I wasn't feeding it. We had to feed that fire, and especially last year when I left that behind, I was like, okay, I needed that something else to drive me, and I have that feeling again, and I don't want it to end, and I think that's a big, as we spoke in the last podcast, there were two times a true athlete dies in their life, and it was from one of the female MMA fighter who did a seminar. It's when you actually die, and it's when you have to leave what has given you that purpose your whole life. And we always need to find something to keep that going inside of us, because without that fire and without that drum being hit and pounded on, we start to die a slow life. And we see that in today's society. You know, not to repeat myself so much, but so many people are not purpose driven, they're feeling driven. So many people are driven by attention and ulterior things that are not true to themselves. You know, these are all human flesh things, bone and blood. And especially we as men need to have that purpose, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know what it is for most people, but we need to have that to keep us going at a much higher frequency, at a much higher level than just being a simple human being.
I'm glad you brought up being a man with a purpose, because I think that's a large issue in 2023 is, I think if you don't find what your purpose is and find what makes your drum beat is, do you think that can lead to depression? And that can often be disguised as depression, as somebody's, you know, identifies as depressed, but they just don't have anything going on that's worth getting out of bed for and worth thinking about and being encompassed with all day.
And you just hit a root. Me, my girlfriend just had this conversation the other day. You know, at her church, they spoke about there's clinically depressed and a self-perceived depression. And today, we hear how everybody's depressed. Mental health, sure, is it a big thing? Yeah. But a lot of it's definitely self-perceived and self-diagnosed for the exact reasons that you just said. People are being driven by things that are not actually driving them. And when you don't have that purpose or that thing to keep you getting up in the morning, keep you moving as a man to fulfill and achieve these things you want to achieve and fulfill those desires that you have, what do we have? You know what I'm saying? We're just kind of just tiptoeing and just walking through and going through the motions. That's not how men were built since the beginning of time. Not how we're supposed to be built. And now we're told that those things are bad, they're narcissistic, they're selfish, they're toxic. How the fuck is it's not? It's human nature since the beginning of time and being a man. And that's just the world has turned into people just be having no purpose. And you know, people say they're depressed. Are you really depressed, or you bring that upon yourself? Have you not found that thing that needs to drive it, or you not, or have you found it and not applying yourself to it? That's another thing as well. Is there could be so many people that could be great at what they do, but they're not applying themselves. Fuck, I'm depressed. I can't do this to my best of my ability. Fuck, I'm depressed. I need to use drugs. Fuck, I'm depressed. I need to have a drink. You know, I was one of those people. You know, and I didn't really know how to. It took me a while to figure it out. And it's funny. A few months ago, actually June 11th, I I would go out to dinner, would have a drink or two. That was my thing. Eat a nice meal. And then June 11th, I was like, it was actually me and my girlfriend had this conversation. Why am I even having this? Like, what is this doing for me? How is this serving me? Everybody else is doing it. I don't want to be like everybody. How am I supposed to be at the highest frequency as a man, be aware at all times when even just at dinner, you know, I'm not, why should I just want, do I need that drink to relax or what is it doing for me? And we see in today's society, everybody's on drugs, everybody's smoking weed, everybody's drinking, and it's a big thing. And that was a decision I made for myself as a man is for the rest of my life, I will be 100% sober, you know, always aware, always at a high frequency because my purposes require me to be on that level. And whatever, you know, when those things are done, I'm always going to look for something else. It's never going to end for me until the day I die. I can't. It's how my dad is. My dad's almost 60 years old. He's still fucking, you know, hustling his ass. He'll never stop. And I see that in him. That's how he's, and I realized this over the last year. It's how he's kept going through so much traumatic shit over the last few years. Kept the purpose. He kept things going, you know, and that's what we lack in today's society. And it even shows in bodybuilding today. You know, we can all tie bodybuilding back to this. It's just, it's how society has been programmed. It's 100% been programmed, and it's showing in everything.
Do you think a large part of once you find your purpose, and we can get into ways to find it, because I know people are gonna like, I get that conversation all the time. Like, I just don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is, what my why is, and like we can touch on that in just a second. But do you think once you find your purpose that there's going to be resistance to staying on the track to fulfilling that purpose? And that's almost like a sign that you're on the right path and you need to push through that resistance.
So those are two great points. Finding your purpose, how to do it. I would like to touch on that. But like you said, will there be resistance? Absolutely. I mean, nothing should be easy that's worth it. I mean, anything that's easy is gone just as easy. And there's always going to be resistance, either it be outside or internal. We're in control of what happens internally. And that's how that was taught to me by Oscar in my life. And then external, we can only control so many things, but it's up to us to program that discipline muscle to override this resistance. Because there's so many people that fuck, this is happening in my life. I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. And I have said in the past, you really love what you're doing if you're going to stop for this stress. And that was a wrong statement because some people just aren't, they haven't built up the fortitude or the discipline to push through that. And they may really love what they do, but they just haven't programmed those other parts of themselves to be able to override that. But the individuals that meet that resistance and are able to power through it, find the part of themselves that they didn't know existed before. I was one of those people. And again, there's true stress and a self-perceived stress. And today's society, it's so much perception is everything. And people don't realize what true stress is. But the people that do are whatever it is they're doing to meet that resistance, if they're able to identify and be self-aware and keep themselves at a high frequency to where they can adapt those situations and get through them, then they get through them like, holy fuck. I didn't think I could do it, but I did that. And it's building up that callus to where
Mhm.
bigger things happen in their life later on and bigger lessons that are coming. Life is life. Shit's gonna fucking happen. But we have to be able to identify those situations, go through it, learn from it, become callous to it, because there are going to be greater situations to come that we need to be able to handle as men. Men, in time, go through shit. We don't not supposed to go into a fucking corner or a hole and hide. We have to get through it, handle our fucking business, and grow from that because there's going to be more shit to come. We can't crawl up into a ball and say fuck it. I've done. Listen. When I'm talking to people, I'm not talking as if I'm perfect. I'm perfect. I'm talking from experience because I've done these things, and I've went against the ways that I was raised at times, but I had to learn from it. And I went through these things, and I had to learn to where I am today. And there will always be lessons. So finding that resistance, you have to embrace it. Like I've always said, life is like a roller coaster. You listen, we can all love the highs. The highs are amazing, but the lows and those bumps are the ones that build character. And we lack character, not only in bodybuilding, but in today's society as a whole. And those are character building moments is where do we really want this? Let's prove it to ourselves. Are we going to stick to the commitment that we made to ourselves? We have to stick to it because every time we fail to stick to the commitments we make to ourselves, we're hurting ourselves and our future self. And you can post all this shit on social media about how on point you are and you're doing this and you're doing that. But when those doors are closed and you're not filming yourself, are we really sticking true to the commitments that we made to it? And again, this could apply to bodybuilding. It applies to everything in life. How we do one thing is how we do everything else. And I had to learn this. And, we were building it up. I have my coaching, I have my MMA, I have all these other things I do in my life. My faith it's become the center point of my life. How I approach that, how I approach my coaching, how I approach MMA, how I approach my relationship, how I approach my relationship with my family is everything. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And building up that callus and building up how we handle these things. So then when something happens, we don't fall short on whatever it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't have too much. Hopefully that made sense.
No, you're speaking my language. I think as a man, as you age, you start, if you're in tune with yourself and you're getting wiser as you age, which is the goal, you start to realize that you're two types. You're one that you fold and buckle under stress, and you've identified what you need to work on, or you're someone that realizes, and this is where I'm at, and I think you're in the same camp, is I need stress. If I don't have something that I'm working towards, like an off season or a prep or goals with my coaching or goals in life that are a lot of pressure and they're scary, I'm a bump on a log. I have no purpose. And then it's easy to have that perceived like, well, maybe I'm depressed. maybe I don't feel good today. Maybe there's no reason to get out of bed till 1 in the afternoon. So I think I call it controlled chaos, or just like I need some sort of fire going around me at all times that's my edge. That's how I push forward, is like putting big pressure on myself with my goals, with bodybuilding and coaching. So I think once I accepted that and stopped running away from it, I haven't had what people would call mental health problems at all. I mean, sure, you have a bad day where you're just, man, everything's harder today. You didn't get a lot of, whatever the case is. But I think depression is a very real thing, and there's chemically things that can be wrong. And I'm not here to tell anybody that you're not having that if you've been diagnosed with that. I'm not a therapist, but a large percent of this mental health crisis or problems in society that are talked about, it's just lack of drive and willpower to push through that resistance.
I agree, and everybody now is on social media. I'm depressed, and then you have trauma and this, and everybody's talking about me, and then you have these people, maybe me too. Oh, maybe I'm that way, and then okay, now I'm depressed. As you said, depression is a very real thing. There are chemically things that go on, absolutely, but what we're ingesting on this thing every day, mental health, I'm depressed, people crying about things. Why are you putting that on? I did it at some point. Why the fuck would I do that?
Yeah.
And you're putting these thoughts into people that haven't built up that callus, or that want for stress. Listen, there have been times in my life where I became comfortable, and then things either slowly or rapidly started to decline. We need to be uncomfortable to grow as individuals. We need discomfort to grow as coaches. We need discomfort to grow as athletes. We need discomfort to grow as men, and even females as well. For any women out there watching, like, we as a society have become so fucking soft. I'm gonna say it straight out, and now everybody has a fucking issue. Instead of, like you said, that applying pressure, as they say, pressure is a privilege. My MMA coach told me something. He goes, "No, pressure is a few weeks ago. Pressure is a privilege. We need to embrace that. It's a blessing, because it's not a bad thing, and that's what makes us grow into who we want to be." So especially over the last few years, when things happen, I had to learn that, all right, there's always going to be way worse. It's a part of fucking life. Like, grip, either hold on or get the fuck off the boat. And that's the only way we're going to be able to grow. And again, it goes back to how bodybuilding is today. And people don't want to be uncomfortable. There's, not to go too off point, but I'm really fatigued. Okay. And I remember all my coaches and all the old school bodybuilders telling me, if I didn't feel like fucking death in my contest prep, I wasn't in shape. And it was true. I'm so fatigued. This is, no, you're fat. You're not fatigued. You're not training. I guarantee you're not training hard enough. Oh, I'm hungry. That's a part of it. You're
Yeah.
going to, dude, even my guys in the off season, like, there are now guys who are starting to realize, listen, yeah, dude, you're going to be fucking hungry at times. There are going to be times you're not hungry, great, but you're hungry. That's a privilege.
Right.
You're eating plenty of food. Sure, you're hungry. There are people who can't eat the food you're eating, because they have financial reasons, they're poor or whatever. It's tired. Yeah, you're tired. If you're tired, you worked hard. Again, one of the lessons I learned doing MMA with my coach, because you don't leave here like you want to fucking die. I didn't do my job, and you didn't train hard enough. Because I had this thing in my head. I was like, fuck, I'm not, holding at a high level, because I'm not, my energy isn't staying up, my performance. He goes, no, you need to be fucking dead by the time you leave for every time. And that's a privilege. That's an amazing, but I have to be able to embrace these things as an athlete, to grow as an athlete. And the same thing goes with life. And they all intermingle. We can allow the things that we've learned through bodybuilding to apply in other parts of our life. Flex talks about this all the time. Flex Lewis, the lessons that he was a very uncomfortable bodybuilder, most of his career, all the values and lessons he learned to body, now he applies to business, and now it's like things are easy. So getting rid of that comfort zone is, especially today, is needed. And if anybody's watching, I'm not talking from a sense of that I've been perfect, because I haven't, because I have been somebody that allowed myself to get comfortable. I've allowed myself, somebody, I'm depressed. I have allowed myself to, back off, but I had to learn like that is not the way to do it, And so back to what you were saying all the way in the beginning about beating that drum, this all ties into that.
Yeah, you have to feed the beast. We all have things that make us tick, and I think, at least for me, age-wise, I think a lot of your 20s is kind of figuring that out, making mistakes, fucking up, and then you have to, in reflection, in your late 20s and early 30s is when you can look back and be like, all right, I mean, call it like it is. I was being a bitch there. I wasn't doing what I needed to do, and I ran away from adversity, or I cowered in conflict or pressure. And you can be on a podcast and have conversations like this because you've been through the fire, and the next time the fire comes, you're ready. You embrace it. You're the one that people turn to for guidance and leadership, because you don't show that you're going to fail. There's no chink in your armor as far as like, whatever's going to come at me, I'm confident I can take it. I can control what I can control, and the things I can't control, I'm not going to worry about. And that's what's important about being a coach, is you're going to take the stress of others, absorb it, and then give it back to them in a way that's going to give them peace and calmness and allow them to push forward. That's how I look at my days. Like, this fucking thing is going to go off 150 times, and a bunch of different people from all over the world have something that they need me for. It's my job to show up and be there. Whatever that comes at me, I have to be ready for. That doesn't mean I'm perfect and I don't have issues, because I do. I slept a total of probably 3 hours, and I could have airmailed it and be like, hey, dude, I can't make this podcast. I'm tired. But how would I feel the rest of the day if I knew I did that? I'd feel like shit. That would make me a worse coach. My training session would suffer because I knew I'd be in my head about that decision all day. But now it's like I've created my own, almost like a hero story of like, fuck it. I'll get sleep tonight, but I showed up and did all the things I needed to do. I showed up for the people that are paying me to lead them. And that's a good feeling. There's no way you can be depressed when you show up and check all those boxes every day.
And that's the thing. You're keeping the commitment to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Make those commitments to ourselves, and we follow through with them. If people want to talk on a scientific level, it affects your brain chemicals. You're achieving something. Men need to achieve and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of how we were born. It's how part of we were formed at the beginning of time. Men need to achieve and conquer and chase. It's in our DNA.
Pursuit,
And if you're doing those things, think about it. It's not like, you fucking, whatever it is that you may achieve today, get all your work done for the day, fucking done. Showed up for your people today, fucking done. Did this podcast, done. Put your motion training today, done. At the end of the day, you're like, I did everything I told myself I would do today. That is because I've been in situations where I didn't finish everything I set out in a day. And at the end of the day, I felt fucking anxious, and I couldn't rest. I was like, I remember thinking it was that comfort that I would get stuck in. And again, it goes back to what we were kind of programmed to do, and it's achieve, chase, and conquer. And it goes from the small things to the big things. And that's why I tell people, you every day, and as Hal was taught to me, every day is a brick in the house we're building. And every day you go without putting that brick in, that building gets weaker and weaker. And then when you get to the top, you have all these missing spaces. Now you got to redo it all. It's even harder. But if you just keep building on those blocks of discipline, building and keeping the true commitments to yourself, who can fuck with you?
Yeah.
Nobody. How can you be depressed?
That's a superpower.
Yeah, it 100% is. And again, today people don't want to be uncomfortable. And we have shit we have to do. And if, listen, we can't achieve these things, right? If we can't make these commitments to ourselves, what happens if, you make another business? What happens if you make a fucking massive business where you're really in charge of a ton of people and you have more things to look after? What happens if we have a family one day and we have bigger responsibilities and something happens? Do we just say fucking crumble? Like, that's what's going on today. That's what's going on. People just fucking crumble when bigger situations come in because they can't even stick to the. Again, I'm repeating myself because I can't drive it home enough. Sticking to the commitment you made to yourself to achieve and conquer your day, whatever it is you're doing, because when those days come, where something bigger happens, you're fucked. Like you are so fucked. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna fold, and all these people rely on you. You can't even rely on yourself. How the fuck do you expect anybody to rely on you? So, all that ties together.
I had a couple people ask, like this past prep that I did, because I think prep is a good time. You learn a lot about yourself. They asked me what I learned most this prep, and for me, it was how simple contest prep actually is, and it ties into all the things we're talking about. When you just accept that there's going to be periods of where you perceive your hunger to be intense, and it's going to be on your mind all day, even while you're eating, you're still hungry. There's going to be periods of fatigue, low sleep, all the things that we know, irritability. That's part of the game. That's part of it's the ante you have to pay to get in proper contest shape. So when you just let go and accept that and realize there's no hack for all those things, there's no cure, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't need you don't need snacks or like little tricks. It's literally just about accepting that this discomfort that you're in is your path. This is the way, and you found it. Now just stay on it. And for me, it never became more clear than this prep. And it was just like, once I accepted it and I started applying that to everything in life, I can't be fucked with. Like, get a flat tire. This is the way. I got to deal with this flat tire. Somebody rear-ended me last fall. I was so calm about how I dealt. Did I want to get rear-ended? Fuck no. But I just dealt with it. It was just like, this is what happened now. Now I have the next move is boom, boom, boom. And it's domino effect. But I think if you can get to that place where you're just, whatever comes at you, you're ready to roll and battle like a warrior. That's the highest form of like self-love you can be. And I hate that self-love. I hate it. But if you get yourself to a place where you're unaffected, you've won.
It's like you're walking around in a bubble.
Yeah.
In a bubble, it is. And it's a high level of frequency and awareness and consciousness that a lot of people lack today. And it's what helps you to grow and take on those bigger tasks and responsibilities that are to come, or fucking tragedies that are to come. It all adds up. And do you crumble? I'm stressed. I'm just not going to do anything today. All right. So if you're not going to go to the gym today because you got a fucking flat tire or you didn't eat your meals today, what's going to happen when, God forbid, I like to think on the extreme side of things. You get married one day, your fucking wife is diagnosed with cancer. Well, you still got to pay the bills. You still got to work. Still got to take care. What are you going to do? God forbid, somebody has children. Something happens with the kids. Or your fucking mother or your father's dying. Your brother's dying. Or your sister's dying. Or something tragic is, do you just fuck it? Like, it doesn't work like that. It just does not work like that. I'm going to just start drinking. I was like, I've done that. But
Yeah.
when you have people relying on you, you can't. If you have a family or whatever, you can't do it. Or aside from all that, you have to be able to rely on yourself. We can't rely on our own selves. How can anybody else rely on us or even look at us like we're responsible? So it all adds up. And like I always look at things now from the extreme. Like, people think this can never happen to me. No, it fucking can. This is life. We're dealt the cards what can be dealt, and we don't know what's to happen. We hope that, it could be a smoother ride and such horrible things don't happen, but it could happen. And we have to be prepared for those things to happen, and that is only up to us. Not to go too. Everybody posts quotes and motivational fucking reels and this and that, but are you really applying those things to your life? Do you really believe in them, or are you just posting them for fucking likes? That's what most people do today. When I read something, and it resonates with, I fucking believe that. I'm gonna program that myself. I do a lot of reading. I watch a lot of videos of people that I see a lot of value in what they say, and how can I instill it in myself? Again, what you see is what you absorb, and what you absorb, you become. And you can post all the shit you want, but behind closed doors, are you really following those things? It's cool to post on social media, but when the rubber hits the fucking streets, that's when things are going to show.
Yeah, no, that's a very common thing, is to share quotes or a reel with some heartfelt music, some cinematic stuff, and then if it's especially funny if you like know that person personally and like you're not about that. You cave every time something inconvenient happens in your life. You're not about resilience or whatever the quote is that you're sharing. Like you're a fraud.
See it every
I
day.
chuckled to myself when I look through stories, and then I use that as like whatever I share, I'm gonna make sure I live like that. This is my decree. This is what my morals or everything about me aligns with this, and no one could have those thoughts about me.
I'm the exact same way, especially now, because somebody's watching, and I don't ever want to be like everybody else. I never did, and I never will want to be like everybody else.
Yeah, walk to the beat of your own drum. We talked about it a little earlier, finding your purpose. When did you first in your life feel like you found your purpose? Because I feel like purpose is one thing that like when it first finds you, you're not ready for it. And it takes years before you're like, that's it. That's my shit. So when do you think you first found it or it found you?
So I've done so even since I was a young kid. I mean, I remember being skateboarding was like the biggest thing in my life for years, and even as a young kid, I'm same way I looked at bodybuilding years later was how I looked at skateboarding. I'm going to become a professional skateboarder one day. I'm going to go to the X Games. I'm going to have all these. Like I had this vision in my head, and then I got involved with football. And same, I was a norm, but It wasn't just a surface thing. I lived and breathed it because when we were kids, if we wanted to get involved in something, you had to be all fucking in. If you weren't all in, you don't fucking do it. No matter what we did. Same thing with football. I went into my high school year. I said, "Fuck, I'm going to go into high school." Play football most of my life. I said, "I'm going to go to X college. I'm going to go to the NFL one day." But I lived and breathed. I really did. I stopped skateboarding because I didn't want to get injured for football. This is how I was as a kid. I lived and breathed it. So going into my sophomore year, they wanted me to play fullback. First day in the gym, spoken about some other part very briefly, started weight training. And it was legs. And I destroyed myself, not even knowing. They just opened up the door. They said, have at it. First thing I ever went on was a leg extension. Destroyed myself. Leg press, then barbell squat. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. Couldn't walk for days. Couldn't even go to school. I remember my mom said, I'm not doing it anymore. But I had this feeling that I'm like, what is this that I'm feeling? But I started learning, how can I get stronger? How can I get bigger? And not even a month into it, I found who Arnold Schwarzenegger was. And the only two bodybuilders really on YouTube back then was Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. And I seen it, I'm like, okay. Like it started like, I'm like, okay, I think maybe this is like attracting me to something. And I needed to, I became obsessed. And then I just wanted to have abs. And then I was like, okay, I don't think I really want to step on stage in a thong. And then eventually I discovered what bodybuilding was. But I loved the process. I was seeing my body change at 15 years old and very rapidly. What I consumed, what I did in the gym had this reaction. And people started noticing right away. And I'm like, I'm starting to notice it. Just seeing myself develop. And then here was a 15-year-old kid packing meals to go to school and going, making sure I train after school every day. And then I was okay, I think I could do this competing thing. Let me try it. Did my first prep, fucking 16 years old, up at 3:30 in the morning, go to the gym, which I would walk to every morning, which is about 15, 20-minute walk from where I live. Did my cardio, the bus would pick me up out there, go to school, be at school, eat my meals during the day, never cheated, never missed a meal. Go home as soon as I got home, got ready, went to the gym, trained, went home. I didn't do no fucking homework. I cheated on all that because I just wanted to bodybuild, copied other people's fucking homework. But my night was spent studying bodybuilding, getting my meals ready for the next day, study bodybuilding, bed, same thing. When I competed at the 2010 Metropolitans in New York, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew what competing was. I fucking loved bodybuilding at that point, but I won. I beat a 19-year-old kid who was, much bigger than me. I placed top 5 in the open and novice light heavyweight. And it was that sense of achievement that I was hooked. I was like, I'm going to do, and there was a Dave Palumbo interview online when I was 16 backstage. And I said, I love bodybuilding. This is what I want to do in my life. It was then and there that I felt myself, I fucking won. Like I was a 16-year-old kid and I was competing with grown men, beating grown men, but I won. And it was then and there, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something with this one day. And I did. And that was what I set forth my, from that day on is I'm going to be a professional bodybuilder one day. I'm going to be Mr. Olympia one day. And that didn't happen. But that was when I was like, okay, I have a purpose here. My purpose isn't just compete, stepping on stage in a thong though. It was the process of at a young age following. You're a kid. Everybody's out drinking. Kids are doing drugs. Kids are hanging out in parks, getting, going hanging out with girls. I just wanted to bodybuild. That's all I wanted to do. And I see that feeling. I have that feeling now. The the end result of my actions and the commitments I made to myself and working on the weekends to afford it, I fucking put everything. I was not a normal kid. I didn't live a normal teenage life. That was what I wanted to do. So when I seen that, what I set my mind to that I could really achieve, and I did, that was when I'm like, okay, there's a greater purpose here. And even from when I was young as I always wanted to be different from everybody else. I knew I was different. I just didn't know how I would be different. And yes, once you decide to finally do it, that's when, and truly do it, that's when you realize, okay, I think I have my purpose, and I did. And today, people are afraid. What if I fail? What if I don't like it? Who gives a fuck? What do you have to lose? And it's taking that first step that can change the rest of your life. If we procrastinate on it, or if we worry about what if and this or that, you'll never know what your purpose is. And again, I always quote my dad. He says, always jump in with your head first. Whatever happens, happens. Some people look down on that. Oh, but you try to think too logically, this and that. You won't know unless you jump in head first. Until you take that first step, you don't know. And finding your purpose, let's say you have an idea. An idea can only become a thing is if you put the action behind it. It's only an idea or a dream if you just sit on it and you're afraid of what could happen. And people today are afraid of investing themselves. They're afraid of taking that step. They're afraid of taking that action because it's all about what if. Nothing, again, it goes back to being comfortable. I'm comfortable here. Why would I want to come out of my comfort zone when I can risk being uncomfortable, but why not? So all this talk that we're talking about ties together back into being comfortable and applying pressure and stress because you don't know the direction your life could change. There's this idea you have turns into something. For instance, again, last year I made that step into the MMA gym as a 280-pound fucking bodybuilder, jacked out of my mind. Huge, yeah, sure, but I wasn't meant to do that. But I walked out of there with a feeling that I haven't had since I was a teenager. That rediscovery of something like, holy fuck. Like, and if I didn't do that, if I stood on the thought in my head, I'm the big guy going, what if I get hurt? What if I'm not good at it? This is, I don't know until I apply myself. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then I find something else and I just do it. And people have to realize they just have to do it and apply yourself over time. It may not click at first, but over time, it may click and you'll be, okay, I think I have something here. Let me now apply more pressure and more effort to it. And then it's really starting to build up. So it's all about it's as simple as taking the first step and taking action and being willing to get out of your comfort zone and getting into a space where you are uncomfortable. But that again sets that you may now have a new bar set for yourself. Okay, now I'm going to keep working. Instead of just staying here, I'm happy here. Are you really happy? You're not fucking happy. Don't tell me you're fucking happy. You're comfortable. You're not happy. Most people are not happy. They're saying they're depressed because they're setting the bar so low for themselves when they could just, I'm going to fucking do it. And whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. There's a couple points you made there that I wanted to highlight is that you found out at a young age that work ethic is your fuel. And I feel like you've probably always come back to that in hard times, is like you can always trust your work ethic to get you through whatever you're going through. That's how I feel. When I quit the fire service and didn't really have a plan to make money, I just had a dream. I knew my work ethic would carry me and money would come eventually. It wasn't going to be easy, and it definitely wasn't. I mean, I lived in a gym, I lived on an air mattress, I lived in a hotel. Like I had to go through the fire to get to where I'm at now, but I never doubted in myself in those moments behind closed doors when I wasn't on Instagram. It was just me and my thoughts, and it was like, if I just keep working hard, it won't be like this forever. And I think that allowed me to find my purpose. So what I'm getting at is it ties into what you were saying, is like nothing bad can happen from working hard, or for most people just trying. Give yourself a deadline of like, I'm going to try this thing for 6 months to the best of my ability every day. If it doesn't click, or you're not any better at it 6 months later, maybe that's not your thing. Then you can move on. But same thing with moving somewhere. Someone moves to a brand new location. They've never, like, they're away from everything they've ever known. And 3 weeks in, they're going to voice that they're homesick. It's like, no shit. You're not around anything you've ever known. You're not giving yourself a chance to adopt this as your new home. But don't tuck your tail and run back and go live at home because of this feeling. That's, you're running away from the adversity.
Sorry, Tommy. They've been doing this all morning. Of course, it has to happen now. It stopped literally right before we started the podcast. The testing.
What's that?
Did you hear that?
No.
You didn't hear that?
No, I was.
Oh, so they've been testing the fire alarms for days now.
Oh,
Literally, they stopped right before we started. So hopefully it doesn't start again. But it's loud as fuck. Sorry, dude. It's really loud. It's off now. But okay, not to go too long into this because who knows how long that's gonna last. But sorry, that was so distracting. But you're absolutely right. It's just a matter of working hard and actually trying. And most people don't want to do that, unfortunately.
yeah. So if you had, we can wrap it up on this. Like if you had, say you have a client, because I'm sure you have this, who obviously you're working for bodybuilding or a physique goal. That's why they're working with you, but they kind of express something similar to what you might have been going through at a young age. What's some advice you would give them towards, maybe not finding their purpose, but maybe just understanding what their purpose is?
So that's the thing, is I tell them you have to apply yourself. So many people give up before they even give themselves a chance to apply themselves. And it's as simple as just doing it and doing it to the best of your ability. But I've posted about this before, and truly doing it to the best of your ability behind closed doors. I always will talk about social media. I think it's an amazing thing to connect people and make money on, but it is a poison to society because there's so many people on there talking and showing these things that they're doing, but they're not really doing it. And it's sad. So finding your purpose, just fucking do it. If you have an idea or a dream, invest in yourself and just do it, and do it to the absolute best of your ability. Fuck your emotions, fuck your feelings, because dude, there's times when I'm like, dude, I got fucking 40 something check-ins to do after this. Like, today I'm not feeling the best, like whatever, but I have to. When we're off this, I'm gonna fucking walk my dogs, eat something. I'm gonna put my Coach Dom hat on, and I'm gonna fucking do it. And there's other shit I have to do. There's a lot of other stuff I have to do today, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So that goes back to, you're not going to always feel motivated. You're not going to always feel great. You're not going to always want to be in the mood to do something. But when you do those things that you want, that you have to do, so let me use my words wrong. You don't have to do anything. You should. I get to work in my client check-ins today. I posted a metric. I get to, have the luxury of going through my car insurance today because I relocated to Florida and now I have to do all these things. I get to go to the gym today and I get to train. I get to be able to do all these things that I have to do today because I'm blessed with those opportunities and those things, because somebody today did not wake up, Tommy. Somebody today in the next few seconds will take their last breath. Somebody today wishes they had the opportunities that we have. And to anybody watching this right now, somebody wishes they had that idea or dream that you have. Somebody wishes they had the means to be able to go after those things. So there are going to be times where you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to be in the mood to. But guess what? You have the opportunity and the blessing to do it. And that's when you nut the fuck up and you do it to the best of your ability. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be so fucking happy with yourself, not depressed, that you'll be able to go to bed at night. I had a great fucking day today, and I can't wait for tomorrow. And if you have, I know I repeat myself a lot, guys, it's how I drive points home. If you have an idea or you have a dream of something you want to do, no matter how big or small, just do it. Because guess what? You may not wake up tomorrow. You may not have the means to do it later on. So you have to do it now and start now. Because the more you push it off, the further away it gets. And um, the head coach at American Top Team, Conan, one of the greatest MMA coaches in the world, was fought at the first UFC ever in the 90s. Amazing man. He put it to me like this. We wake up in the morning, we're faced with choices. Our whole day is made up of choices. Your life can change in a millisecond like that. You wish somebody good morning is not going to make them have a good morning. You hope and wish that the choices that they make, how they will have a good morning. Every choice that we make shapes what we're going to do in the future. So make that choice, commit to that choice, and stay true to that choice. Because if you're given this opportunity on a platter, you make the wrong choice, life is going to be like this. Okay, I'm going to give this to somebody else. You may not have that again. So just fucking act and make the right choices, and just follow through with all the choices and commitments you make to yourself.
Yeah, that's a great place to wrap it up. So if you're still listening, like, share, comment, subscribe. You know, drop any adversity you faced in the comments. Let us know what you think. You know, this is a pilot episode, but this is something I wanted to get Dom on here and you know, build on this each episode, because the mind leads the body. You know, a lot of what we do is physical with the MMA, with bodybuilding, a lot of the stuff that a lot of the listeners here are into. And I think sharpening the mind is more important than training the body. And a lot of the stuff you and I follow and read, you know, with different samurai warriors and war practices. I know I read a lot of the same stuff you do. So once you start to apply that to like life in 2023, it all starts to tie together. And that's what we're trying to do here, is tie all that together for you guys and provide some value. So for Dom Cardone, I'm Tommy Styles, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.